with you. Megan has transitioned her family from the city of Oakley, there she is, to the Sacramento area. She's actually in Lincoln, which is just right outside of Roseville and El Dorado Hills, and in that area, beautiful area with massive development. And so I've asked Megan to be a part of this call. And then also I've got Daniel on the line, and I see Daniel, you're in the main conference room. Daniel, how are you today?
We're good. You're unmuted.
And so Daniel has moved from Antioch to Sacramento. And so these are two team members. Megan is our lead buyer specialist and serves all of our buyer clients in that area, along with the other buyer specialists that we have, and specializes in that greater Sacramento area. Daniel's one of our listing specialists in that community and is helping homeowners sell their property in that Sacramento area. And so Daniel, Megan, thanks for being on the call today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's jump right into it. Daniel, Megan, you've personally been a part of this California Great Migration. You've moved from the San Francisco Bay Area to the greater Sacramento area. What's been the biggest difference personally that you've experienced in these two regions? And I'm looking to you, Megan. Why don't you go ahead and respond first?
A lot of things. I got a much bigger, nicer home than I had down in the Bay Area. A lot less congestion. There's a ton of new things going in, new schools, new homes, new restaurants, shopping, movie theaters. And so it's nice to have new stuff going in. Great schools. I love where my kids go to school. And there's a huge focus on family out here too. And I love that I brought my family to a place that has a lot of focus on community.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. Daniel, what was the biggest difference for you moving from, you were in the city of Antioch, which is in Contra Costa County, and you've moved to Sacramento. What's been the biggest difference for you personally living in the Sacramento area?
The size and population of a big city like Sacramento, growing as fast as it is, and the changes that come with that. So all of the everything that needs to go into supporting the growth in population, including the jobs, retail, economic development. Something's always going on. And Antioch is a city of just over 100,000 people. Sacramento's got over 500,000, and greater Sacramento area's got like 2.6 million. So it's a really big city with a lot of cool different neighborhoods and lots going on and changes coming all the time.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel. LG, let's go ahead and put up those slides. So a couple of things that we've realized in that Sacramento area, and we're going to now a slide by the California Association of Realtors. And both Daniel and especially Megan had made the comment about why so many people are moving to from the San Francisco Bay Area to that Sacramento County area. This is by the California Association of Realtors as of 2019. It's really hot off the press. And you'll notice that 1 in 5 people in 2019, or 21%, chose moving out of the Bay Area because of housing affordability. Like it is very expensive to live here in the Bay Area. And if you're a resident of the Bay Area, you know that. Where I'm at recording this video in Contra Costa County, the average price of a home is over $650,000. And it's significantly less, as Megan said, when you look at that Sacramento region. The second most popular response is quality of life. I think Megan alluded to it with schools and even being kind of family-centric, focused on families. And 20%, again, 1 in 5 people are choosing to move out of the Bay Area, are changing counties because they want to have a better quality of life. 14% are closer to relatives or family. We see this as one family member moves or relative, family member or friend. Very, very common that others follow suit. I know entire families that have transitioned, part of this California Great Migration. A lot of people are buying second homes out there, short-term rentals, Airbnb. VRBO, home away, is very, very popular, especially in those communities that are more resort location or communities where short-term rentals are common. We see people buying second homes, and the Airbnb provides them a way to monetize that home. Airbnb is not the only solution, but home away or VRBO, any type of short-term rentals. And so second homes are becoming more common. We see job change now at 7%, shorter commute, 5%, quality of schools, Megan referenced that, 5%. Even our so a lot of people are retiring, 5% of the people are retiring, and that's why they're choosing to move from one county to the next. And you'll notice that these are similar responses in 2018 as they are in 2019 in this survey. So we're seeing housing affordability is the dominant reason why people are making this move. But it's not the only reason. There are some other reasons that people are making this transition. Let me go on to the next slide, LG. Specifically, we're looking at the housing affordability that has been consistent issue for first-time home buyers over the last few years. If you notice, this slide goes back to 2014. At the time of this recording, this is 2020, so this is taking into consideration the entirety of 2019. Notice the percentage of first-time buyers who change county because of housing affordability. And in 2019, 48%, almost every other person, the reason they made the change from one county to another was because of housing affordability. We go back to 2014, the market was very different, and it was, well, about 1 in 4 people would make that decision. That was because of more affordable housing. Today, we're seeing about 50% of the people, 48% are choosing to move from one county to the next. So because the Bay Area is, well, it's difficult to afford a home here. It's not impossible. We've got a lot of programs. Our in-house lender has a lot of programs that can help with down payment assistance and closing cost credits and all of those things. And we don't often see a 20% down payment like we did years ago. So it's not impossible, but it is challenging, and it's the dominant reason why people are making that move. LG, take me to that next slide. So if you look here at Sacramento County, in comparison, and we're talking the entire county of Sacramento, this entire Sacramento County, not just the city of Sacramento. But if you notice, home values have continued to rise, but they're still on average under $400,000. And in contrast to, say, the city of San Francisco, where the average home is $1.3 million at the time of this recording, it is a significant savings. And so there's no wonder why people are making the transition, the eastward hoe, as we called it, in this California Great Migration. Let's go to the next question. Daniel, Megan, let's look at another reason for the California Great Migration is I often hear families are making the move for newer schools, newer parks, newer retail. Are you seeing that as you drive through the greater, as I drive through the greater Sacramento area, I see new construction popping up everywhere. Are you seeing those new amenities? Are you able to kind of take advantage of the newer schools and parks and communities? And have you experienced that's a big draw to the greater Sacramento region? Megan, I'll go back to you again.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. They are not only building new shopping parks, malls, things like that, but they're also revamping old developments too. And so, like I said before, it's very attractive to young families. The school systems are fantastic, and we're really, really happy with it.
And you've got a couple of little ones in school, and so they're in elementary school, is that right?
Yes.
And so you're able to experience the schools firsthand. How about the local parks? Do you venture out to the local parks?
There's multiple parks in the neighborhoods, and all of the new neighborhoods, they're building multiple parks throughout. I can walk out my door and I'm at a park in 3 minutes.
But it's not just that, Megan, when we were talking about parks, it's not just the parks. Like when I grew up, it was just an empty field, a grassy field. I'm going to these parks with huge community centers. There's pools, massive concrete ping pong tables.
Yeah.
There's all cornhole tournaments that are taking place, and huge ball fields, both soccer and baseball and softball fields. I'm seeing these are not just your traditional parks that we may have experienced here in the Bay Area, but they really are elaborate parks.
They're very fancy parks. Yeah, they've got all the bells and whistles. We've got zip lining. There's a lot of community sports going on as well. We've got a sports center that's going in here in Lincoln, and so there's lots to do with your young kids.
And then last question for you, Megan, on that topic. What about retail? Are you seeing new retail stores, restaurants, entirely new developments that are occurring? I was shocked to see in Elk Grove with Delta Shores and how the massive development, there's over 91 tenants in that strip mall. Are you seeing a lot of newer retail stores that are occurring?
Yes, and they're also redoing downtown Sacramento. So you've got Doco and Golden One Center as well, and they've redone the entire K Street Mall. And so there's new shopping and new restaurants, chain restaurants, and mom and pop restaurants shooting up all over the place.
Awesome. Daniel, have you experienced this? New schools, new parks, new communities, and new restaurants. Have you experienced that in Sacramento?
Yes, piggybacking off of what Megan said, the parks really surprised me when I was up there. I read there are over 220 parks in the city of Sacramento alone. And when she was talking about the family-centric culture in Sacramento, I definitely agree with that. And hello, we're also getting a new soccer team pretty soon. I'm not sure if everyone heard that news. So really big stuff, economically and lifestyle related, happening in Sacramento all the time.
You know,
Anna Phil's coffee. Anna Phil's coffee.
Anna Phil's coffee. Someone chimed that in from somewhere in the room. I know exactly who did. Daniel, what about, you've got a lot of sporting events there in Sacramento. I was just looking at the River Cats in Sacramento, and you could still get tickets for about $10 for a River Cats baseball game. Have you experienced any of the sporting activities that have occurred in the Sacramento area?
I have not yet. I've been meaning to see a River Cat game. I have not gone out yet, no.
But I know you've experienced a lot of the waterways out there, because you've got both the Sacramento River, which goes right behind, right where the River Cats play, where Megan talked about, which is Old Town Sacramento, right there at the Sacramento River that meets there. And I know you've spent some time out there on the river. What do you think about that? How's that experience been?
It's another thing that draws a lot of people to Sacramento. You got the Sacramento River, San Joaquin to the south of us, Feather River close by. A lot of salmon fishing going on. Just you can see that while you're walking around Old Town Sac. When it's salmon season, it brings a lot of people out. And Sacramento used to be called the City of Trees. And so that struck me also. There are a lot of trees, a lot of nature preserved. And if you're an outdoorsy type of person, there's just as much stuff like that to do as frequenting all the new restaurants, the new buildings, and all the other infrastructure.
Now, Daniel, you've been in Sacramento now for about a year. Is that right? Maybe a little less.
A little less. So yeah.
And Megan, you've been in that the Lincoln area for a couple of years now.
5 years now.
5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a chance to kind of experience a lot of what the community has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this. In addition to new schools, new parks, we're real estate professionals. Anytime I'm on vacation, I'm typically pulling a flyer out of a box. I'm always just curious about real estate. And in the Sacramento area, not only are home prices much less, the average home price in Sacramento right now under $400,000, there's a lot of new construction. Have you experienced that?
Yes, new construction everywhere, which is exciting and fun to go through.
Well, and not only is there new construction, we're seeing a lot of homes that have a lot of the modern amenities. So it's beyond now open floor plans. We're now seeing things like built-in solar, which has been built into the roof tiles, which is really interesting. A lot of communities have a significant amount in Sacramento of walkability, meaning that you live in a community and everything you want to do is right there in that community, or there's public transportation that makes getting to your local restaurants, retail stores, schools, churches, wherever you want to travel very easy. Have you experienced some of those walkable communities, Megan?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, Sacramento and downtown Elk Grove are very easy to get to and get around.
awesome. Daniel, how about you? Have you experienced some of the new construction that's out in that area?
I have, absolutely. And the walkability that you were talking about only gets better when you've got things like jump bikes, which are so prevalent in Sacramento. There's a really big emphasis for public transportation. I would liken to kind of what it is in San Francisco. More unique than I think is seen throughout the greater Bay Area is really prevalent here in the greater Sacramento area, especially in Sacramento itself.
Awesome. So Megan, last question I have for you. As a real estate specialist, you have made that great migration yourself to that Sacramento County, Sacramento region. What advice would you give somebody that maybe 5 years ago were in your shoes? You were thinking about making this transition. What advice would you give them if they're in the Bay Area looking for some of the things we've talked about today? And how can you help them?
My advice would be come out here and experience it. Take some time, go through downtown Sacramento, and then meet with me. We can talk about your wants and your needs and narrow it down to the perfect house, the perfect neighborhood just for your family.
Yeah, so they can come out there, travel with you. You'll show them around the community, show them the property, show them various new homes, including resale properties. You're not limited just to one or the other, and they can kind of get a feel for it themselves.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Daniel, what say you? What advice would you give somebody a year ago, that you were in that position a year ago when you were thinking about moving to Sacramento? What advice would you give somebody in the Bay Area that's thinking about making that transition, and how can you help them?
Well, if they are a consumer or a buyer, I would tell them to, like Megan said, do their research and compare the cost of living and everything that has driven so many people to move out there. If I'm talking to a real estate agent, I would say that there's so much change and so much growth happening. They really need to, like you always say, Rick, stay with their finger on the pulse of the market, educate themselves. There's already a lot to know, and it's changing and evolving all the time. So it's especially important in a market like that.
Awesome. And Daniel, you can be reached at daniel@rickfuller.com from an email, their email address, megan@rickfuller.com, and they can connect with you. Megan is our lead buyer specialist there in that Sacramento region. Daniel, our listing specialist, helping our homeowners getting the most amount for the sale of their property in that Sacramento area. And not only do you know that community, but you live there, right? I mean, like, you not only have a pulse on it, your kids are going to that school, or, you're venturing to those retail outlets, or you're dining in those local restaurants. You've got a pulse on what's happening in the community. Unlike agents in the San Francisco Bay Area that may not know that community all that well. Is that right?
Yes.
Awesome. Hey, I want to thank you, Megan, for taking the time. Daniel, thank you for taking the time on the call. Really appreciate your insights. I'm sure this will be helpful to a lot of people that are looking at making that transition.